So it's my pleasure to hand over now, having done my general introduction bit, to Jane Newman. So Jane is actually employed to help with the mitochondrial service, as a physiotherapist, but also does a lot of research to try and look at different ways of trying to help people. So, Jane.
Thank you for doing my first slide for me. As Professor Turnbull has just said, I'm Jane Newman. For any who haven't met me, I'm a physiotherapist who works with the mitochondrial service in Newcastle. During my talk, I want to talk about my role within the mitochondrial service and what I do. And then I'll move on to how physiotherapy can help people with mitochondrial disease. I'll talk a bit about exercise and what type of exercise and why we should do it. And then at the end, I'm just going to mention briefly the research trials that we're currently doing in Newcastle, looking into the effects of exercise in mitochondrial disease. So what do I do? Well, as Professor Turnbull has just said, I attend clinic, so hopefully, as some of you will have already met me, where hopefully I can provide physiotherapy advice for you and also advice about what kind of activities would be beneficial for you to take. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the clinic and the distances that people travel to the clinic, it's impossible for me to provide treatment in the clinic setting. But hopefully I can provide a link to your local physiotherapy service and also provide information about what physiotherapy can do to physiotherapists around the country. Because as you're probably aware, if you turn up at a physiotherapy department and say that you've got mitochondrial disease, you're probably met with kind of a blank expression. And not many of them will know much about mitochondrial disease and also probably will never see a patient with mitochondrial disease. But the main bulk of my work is obviously in research, and I'll talk a bit more about that towards the end of the talk. Sorry. Close to the mic. So how can physiotherapy help you? Well, here's a list of a number of symptoms that you may or may not have due to your mitochondrial disease. Symptoms such as muscle weakness, stiffness or floppiness, poor balance, difficulty with walking, and all those can be treated with physiotherapy. But also we must remember that actually you can also meet physiotherapists in the community setting, and they may be looking at different things such as improving your walking so that you can participate in social activities. They may be looking at providing you with aids and adaptations in your home. So the role of the physio can be very varied. So some people may think this is what physiotherapists do, and I'm told that Dr. Schaefer thinks this is what physiotherapists do. But hopefully on the following slides I can give you a bit of a flavour of the many things that physiotherapy can do, apart from bending your leg around your ear, as this slide demonstrates. So when we think about physiotherapy, often think about exercise. And there's probably two types of exercise that we traditionally talk about in research. Either aerobic exercise, such as running or cycling or brisk walking, and also resistance exercise, such as weight training. Obviously I'm a female, so the pictures are pictures of males. I hope I've got some women in the pictures a bit later on. Here we are. But also, as well as these types of exercise which are very easy to quantify, in a physio department you might be given other types of exercise, such as the one shown here. Although I don't necessarily recommend the gym ball exercise on the bottom right of the slide without a considerable amount of supervision. But also, it's not all about going to the gym. It's very important for your general health of everybody that we actually increase the amount of activity we do. And actually, activities such as walking the dog, gardening, can all be considered exercise. But also, we have a modern take on exercise as well, with the bringing about of the we, which lots of people seem to like, and we know that Dr. Gorman advocates it in her clinic. Physiotherapy is also involved in the management of muscle stiffness, or it may be termed as spasticity or dystonia. You might have heard those words before. And alongside the medical treatment, which may involve drugs and injections, physiotherapy can be involved with providing stretches, splinting, and even specialised seating, so that muscle stiffness can be controlled so that the person can function. As you will probably all know, physiotherapists give out walking aids, of which there are a great many, and also one does not suit all. But we also involved in advice about aids around your house and for activities of daily living. And we have a stand here this evening from Disability North, who have a number of aids and adaptations here, and I'm sure will be willing to give you any information about the variety of aids and adaptations that are out there that may be of benefit to you. So exercise. What kind of exercise should we do, and why should we do it? Well, we know that activity is important for us all, and the recommended amount of exercise we should take is about 10,000 steps a day. It sounds a lot, but you'd be surprised how easily you can achieve that. But recently we did a study where a number of people here wore an armband for a few days, and that measured how much activity you did. Now, from that study, it told us that half the patients that took part did less than 6,000 steps a day. And this is what one would call a sedentary lifestyle. It also told us that actually only 2 out of 10 patients actually did the recommended amount of steps. So we know that people with mitochondrial disease, due to many reasons, are not as active as the general public. So we know that mitochondrial disease patients aren't as active as the general public. So what kind of activity do we think you should do? Well, there are 2 types of exercise that can be done. There's been a number of studies, about 13 studies have looked at exercise in mitochondrial disease. From these studies we can deduce that aerobic exercise such as walking, running, cycling can improve mitochondrial function in some patients with mitochondrial disease. And we also know that resistance training is beneficial for certain people with mitochondrial disease and is safe. But because we only know that it's of use in some patients, we need to do further research, which is what I'm going to talk to you about now, about the research that we're doing here in Newcastle, looking further into those 2 types of exercise.